Nathaniel Bennett, a new bank director and widower, accepts an unexpected invitation from the file assistant, Camila Rodriguez, to Christmas lunch. But they never imagined that. How far would you go to overcome the past and make room for a new beginning? Find out how a life can change in just one night of celebration. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. In the heart of Chicago, a city renowned for its bustling streets and towering skyscrapers, Nathaniel Bennett stepped out of the cab, his mind swirling with the sounds and sights that enveloped him. The brisk December air wrapped around him, a cold contrast to the warmth he had known just a few years ago. He took a moment to absorb the vibrant atmosphere that seemed to pulse with life, a stark reminder of the solitude he had come to accept. The festive decorations lining the streets, twinkling lights, and cheerful storefronts stood in sharp contrast to the heaviness of his heart. For Nathaniel, every sight was a reminder of the laughter and joy that had once filled his life, a life that felt impossibly distant now. As he approached the towering building that would soon become his new workplace, he felt an overwhelming sense of trepidation. He was the new bank director, a position that demanded confidence and charisma, traits he found increasingly difficult to summon. The memories of his late wife, Margaret, flooded his thoughts as he navigated the throngs of people, each absorbed in their own holiday shopping or joyous reunions. Nathaniel had been a part of such moments once, sharing in the laughter and warmth of family gatherings. But that chapter of his life had closed, leaving behind an empty shell of what once was. Arriving at his new apartment, Nathaniel hesitated before unlocking the door. The apartment was modest yet comfortable, an empty canvas awaiting his personal touch. He stepped inside, the silence enveloping him like a shroud. The walls were bare, the furniture minimal, a stark reflection of his current state. He set down his suitcase and moved to the large window, gazing out at the city sprawled below. The lights of the city twinkled like stars, each one a reminder of lives being lived, of connections being made. He felt like an outsider looking in, a ghost haunting the vibrant life outside. As he unpacked his belongings, Nathaniel's mind drifted back to Margaret. He could almost hear her laughter echoing in the corners of the apartment. They had shared dreams of a life filled with adventure, of a home bursting with love and laughter. Now, those dreams lay shattered, scattered like the remnants of a long-forgotten dream. The weight of solitude pressed heavily on his chest as he placed her photograph on the windowsill. It was a small gesture, yet it felt significant, as if he were acknowledging her presence in this new chapter of his life. He spent the evening unpacking, but the task felt hollow. Each item he placed in its designated spot was a reminder of the life they had built together. The books they had read, the trinkets collected from their travels, all felt like whispers of a past that was now just a memory. As darkness fell, Nathaniel found himself sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. The city outside continued its frenetic pace, but inside, time seemed to stand still. The silence was deafening, amplifying the loneliness that had taken root in his heart. The next morning, Nathaniel awoke to the sound of his alarm blaring insistently. He had a new job to attend, a fresh start that he desperately hoped would bring purpose back into his life. He dressed carefully, opting for a crisp shirt and tailored suit, trying to project an image of confidence that he didn't quite feel. After a quick breakfast, he made his way to the bank, the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach as he navigated the streets once more. Entering the bank, Nathaniel was greeted by the buzz of activity. Employees moved with purpose, engrossed in their tasks, their laughter and chatter filling the air. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was here to lead, to inspire. Yet, as he made his way to his office, he felt like a stranger in a foreign land. The weight of expectations settled upon his shoulders, and he could feel the curious glances of the staff as they sized him up. It wasn't long before he was introduced to his team. They gathered in the conference room, a mix of seasoned professionals and eager newcomers, all looking to him for guidance. Nathaniel stood at the front, prepared to deliver a speech that would set the tone for his leadership. But as he began to speak, he sensed the distance between them, a barrier that felt insurmountable. He spoke of goals and visions for the bank, but the words felt rehearsed, lacking the genuine passion that would engage them. Their faces were polite, but he could see the flicker of disinterest in their eyes. As the meeting progressed, one individual stood out among the crowd, Camila Rodriguez. She was vibrant, her energy palpable as she engaged with the discussions, her laughter mingling with the serious tones of the meeting. Nathaniel couldn't help but be drawn to her enthusiasm. She had a warmth that contrasted sharply with his own demeanor, a light that illuminated the room. Yet, despite her engaging presence, Nathaniel found himself retreating further into his shell, consumed by his own thoughts and the shadows of his past. After the meeting concluded, Camila approached him, her bright smile unwavering. She exuded an infectious energy that made her seem larger than life, a stark contrast to Nathaniel's reserved nature. As she spoke about the bank's projects and her role as an assistant, he nodded politely, but his mind was elsewhere, reflecting on his late wife and the life they had built together. Camila's words became a distant hum, a reminder of the connections he had once cherished but now struggled to maintain. Days passed, and Nathaniel continued to bury himself in work, trying to find solace in the familiar routine. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling of isolation that clung to him like a second skin. Each day, he observed Camila's interactions with the staff, her laughter echoing through the hallways, bringing a sense of warmth to the chilly confines of the bank. He found himself intrigued by her, drawn to the light she brought to the otherwise monotonous atmosphere. Yet, every time he considered engaging with her, the memories of his past pulled him back, reminding him of the love he had lost. Then, one day, as the holiday season approached, Camila caught him off guard with an unexpected invitation. She approached his office with an exuberance that was impossible to ignore. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she extended an invitation to a Christmas lunch with her family. The warmth radiating from her was almost tangible, and for a brief moment, Nathaniel felt a flicker of hope. Yet, the thought of stepping into a world so vibrant and full of life filled him with trepidation. He hesitated, a myriad of thoughts racing through his mind. The prospect of mingling with a lively family felt daunting, a stark reminder of the void left by Margaret. But as he looked into Camila's hopeful eyes, a spark of curiosity ignited within him. Perhaps this was an opportunity to step outside the confines of his solitude, to embrace the warmth of human connection once more. With a deep breath, he found himself nodding, a hesitant acceptance lingering on his lips. Little did he know that this seemingly simple decision would unravel the tightly wound threads of his heart, leading him down a path he had long been afraid to tread. The world around him felt alive, and for the first time in a long while, Nathaniel dared to hope. Nathaniel Bennett stood at the entrance of Camila Rodriguez's family home, his heart pounding softly against the confines of his chest. The inviting aroma of spices and roasted meats wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter and chatter that poured from inside like a warm embrace. It was a stark contrast to the quiet solitude he had been accustomed to since his wife's passing. As he hesitated on the threshold, he felt the weight of his own hesitance, a reluctant guest entering a world that felt foreign yet tantalizingly alive. The sprawling house was adorned with festive decorations. Strings of twinkling lights hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow that danced over the faces of Camila's family, who were gathered around a large dining table. They seemed to be a spectrum of joy and excitement, their voices rising and falling like a symphony of warmth and camaraderie. Nathaniel's fingers brushed against the cold doorknob, and with a deep breath, he stepped inside, crossing the threshold into a realm of laughter that felt almost too bright for his somber soul. At first, he felt like an intruder, standing awkwardly at the entrance while the vibrant energy enveloped him. The walls seemed to vibrate with life, saturated with the rich history of Camila's family. Each laugh, each story, a thread woven into the fabric of their shared existence. Yet, as he took a tentative step further into the room, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. A few heads turned, their curious eyes sizing him up. Camila, radiant in a festive red dress that accentuated her warm complexion, spotted him immediately. Her face broke into a wide smile, an expression that seemed to light up the entire room. She moved towards him with an eagerness that was infectious, and as she approached, the chatter resumed, now punctuated with whispers of, "Who is he?" and "Isn't he handsome?" Nathaniel felt the heat rise to his cheeks, an unexpected blush betraying his natural reticence. Camilla's family welcomed him with open arms, each member introducing themselves, their voices a melodic mix of Spanish and English. He was engulfed in a sea of warmth, their laughter washing over him like a wave. Yet, despite their inviting gestures, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. The boisterous energy was overwhelming, and he found himself retreating slightly, seeking solace in the corner of the room where he could observe rather than engage. As the lunch began, the table was laid out with an array of traditional dishes, vibrant colors, and rich aromas competing for his attention. There were tamales, enchiladas, and a steaming pot of pozole, each dish a testament to Camilla's family heritage. Nathaniel watched as the family passed around plates, filling them generously, laughter bubbling up like the simmering pots on the stove. He felt a pang of nostalgia for the meals he once shared with his wife, the warmth of their home filled with love and the comfort of shared traditions. It was a bittersweet reminder that tugged at his heart, yet he found himself drawn in by the joy surrounding him. As the meal progressed, Nathaniel was surprised at how easily the conversation flowed. The stories shared were lively and animated, tales of childhood mischief and family traditions that had been passed down through generations. Nathaniel found himself laughing along, albeit quietly, as he listened. For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of connection, a reminder that laughter could exist even in the shadows of loss. Camilla's laughter was the brightest of all, her joy infectious as she animatedly recounted a story about a past Christmas mishap involving a piñata that had gone awry. Nathaniel chuckled at the image painted by her words, his heart warming to the sound of her voice. It was in these moments that he began to let his guard down, sharing small anecdotes about his life, his career, and even a fond memory of his late wife. It was a cautious openness, but it felt liberating to share a slice of his past in the midst of such vibrant company. The afternoon unfolded like a tapestry of flavors and emotions, each thread interwoven with laughter and shared stories. Nathaniel found himself seated between Camilla and her grandmother, who had an infectious spirit and a mischievous twinkle in her eye. The older woman took it upon herself to ensure Nathaniel was enjoying every bite, her gentle nudging accompanied by a warm smile that made him feel more at home. He savored the dishes, each bite a reminder of the richness of life that he had been missing. As the meal drew to a close, the table was laden with remnants of the feast, plates half full and bowls emptied of their contents. Camilla's family began to clear the table, still buzzing with energy, while Nathaniel felt a gentle tug at his heart, a longing to belong, to be a part of something larger than himself. The sounds of clinking dishes and laughter filled the air, creating a symphony of normalcy that felt almost foreign to him. After the meal, Nathaniel found his way to a quiet balcony that overlooked the bustling street below. The chill of the winter air nipped at his skin, but he welcomed it as a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the home. He leaned against the railing, taking a deep breath, allowing the sounds of the celebration to fade into the background. The city lights twinkled like stars, and for a moment, he felt the weight of the world lift slightly from his shoulders. He heard the soft creak of the door behind him and turned to find Camilla stepping out, her cheeks flushed from the warmth of the house. She joined him at the railing, the silence between them comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. He could see the flicker of excitement in her eyes, as if she too felt the shift in the air, the subtle connection that had formed amidst the chaos of the day. In that moment, Nathaniel felt a spark of hope, a possibility that perhaps he could embrace this joy, this connection, without fear. They stood side by side, gazing out at the city, where life continued unabated. Camilla spoke softly, her voice a gentle murmur against the backdrop of the holiday festivities. Nathaniel found himself captivated by her words, the dreams and aspirations she shared, each one a glimpse into her vibrant spirit. He felt a warmth spreading through him, a budding attraction that made him acutely aware of their closeness. Yet, as the moment stretched, Nathaniel's past crept back into his mind, an unwelcome reminder of his heartache. He pulled back slightly, the walls he had so carefully constructed rising up like a fortress around him. The fear of moving forward loomed large, a shadow that darkened the light of the connection he was beginning to feel. It was as if he stood at the edge of a precipice, teetering on the brink of something beautiful yet terrifying. Camila turned to him, her expression thoughtful, sensing the shift in his demeanor. Her warmth radiated, a beacon against the cold, beckoning him to take a step closer to the light. Yet, Nathaniel's heart remained heavy with uncertainty, the ghosts of his past whispering doubts into his ear. He felt the tug of his late wife's memory, a reminder that moving on felt like a betrayal, a violation of the love they had shared. As they stood in silence, the sounds of laughter and joy filtering through the open door behind them, Nathaniel was torn between the desire to embrace this new connection and the fear of letting go of what he had lost. In that quiet moment on the balcony, he found himself at a crossroads, the promise of new beginnings flickering before him like the distant city lights, inviting him to take a leap of faith into the unknown. But for now, he remained suspended in that moment, caught between the warmth of Camila's presence and the shadows of his past, unsure of which path to take. Nathaniel Bennett stepped into the bank on a crisp December morning, the soft hum of the heating system a stark contrast to the icy air outside. As he walked through the marble-floored lobby, he felt the familiar mixture of anticipation and trepidation that accompanied him each day. The towering windows framed the skyline of Chicago, a city that still seemed foreign to him despite the weeks that had passed since his arrival. He had exchanged one life for another, leaving behind memories that lingered like shadows. Today, his thoughts were consumed by the vibrant world of Camila Rodriguez. The echoes of laughter and warmth from her family's Christmas lunch were still fresh in his mind, swirling around him like the festive decorations adorning the bank. Nathaniel had found himself unexpectedly drawn to Camila, her vivacious spirit a sharp contrast to his own reserved nature. But with that attraction came a flood of emotions he hadn't anticipated. The warmth she offered was both intoxicating and terrifying. He lingered at his desk, staring at the stack of reports, but his thoughts drifted back to her smile, the way her laughter filled the air, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to dispel the thoughts that clouded his focus. The flickering lights of the holiday decorations on his office tree caught his eye, reminding him of the joy he had long abandoned. It was easier, he thought, to keep his heart shielded, to bury the memories of his late wife deep within the confines of his mind. Yet, the more he tried to ignore the budding feelings for Camila, the more they pressed against the walls he had constructed around his heart. As he sat in his office, the usual rhythm of the bank bustling outside his door, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the threshold of something profound. Camila represented a flickering light in his otherwise dim existence, but stepping through that doorway into a new relationship felt fraught with peril. The guilt he felt for moving on, if that's what this was a heavy weight on his conscience. He had loved deeply once, and the loss had carved out a space in him that he feared could never be filled. Yet, here was this woman, vibrant and full of life, offering him a glimpse of happiness he had thought lost forever. Meanwhile, Camila was in the break room, her mind racing with thoughts of Nathaniel. She poured herself a cup of coffee, the rich aroma surrounding her, but it was the prospect of seeing him again that stirred her heart. She had sensed a shift in him during the Christmas lunch, a flicker of interest that ignited hope within her. She had seen the way he looked at her, the way his walls seemed to waver, if only for a moment. It was this determination that propelled her to invite him to another family gathering, a holiday party that she hoped would further draw him into her lively world. As she finalized the details for the party, a sense of purpose filled her. She wanted to show Nathaniel that life was meant to be celebrated, that joy could coexist with loss. Her family was a tapestry of love and support, and she believed that introducing him to their warmth could help him heal. Camila thought of her siblings, their laughter echoing through their home, the way they rallied around each other in times of need. Nathaniel needed to see that life could still hold beauty and connection, even amidst heartache. When Nathaniel received the invitation to the holiday party, he felt a familiar flutter of apprehension. He had always been a man of routines, a solitary figure who preferred the quiet of his own company. Yet, a small part of him longed to step outside of that comfort zone, to embrace the life that Camila so effortlessly embodied. He weighed the decision heavily, his mind racing with the implications of attending. The prospect of being surrounded by her family was daunting, but he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her. He recalled the way her laughter had brightened the room, the way her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. It was a stark contrast to the silence he had grown accustomed to, and despite his reservations, Nathaniel found himself yearning to experience that warmth once more. As he paced his office, he could almost hear the laughter from the lunch they had shared, the echoes of joy that had momentarily shattered his solitude. The thought of returning to that atmosphere was both exhilarating and terrifying. Would he be able to navigate the chaos? Would he be able to open himself up to the possibilities that lay within the embrace of her family? All he knew was that he had to try, to confront the fears that clung to him like a second skin. The day of the party arrived, and Nathaniel stood before his mirror, adjusting his tie. He felt a mixture of nerves and excitement bubbling in his chest. As he stepped out of his apartment, the chill of the December air greeted him, a reminder that the world continued to move forward, regardless of his internal struggles. He took a deep breath, allowing the crisp air to fill his lungs, and made his way to Camila's home. Upon arriving, Nathaniel stood at the door for a moment, taking in the festive lights that adorned the house. The sounds of laughter and music spilled out into the street, wrapping around him like an invitation. With every step he took toward the door, he felt a sense of apprehension wash over him, but it was accompanied by a flicker of hope. He was stepping into a world so different from his own, a world where love was expressed freely and joy was shared openly. As he crossed the threshold, he was greeted by the intoxicating aroma of traditional holiday dishes. The living room was alive with color, filled with decorations that reflected the warmth of Camila's family spirit. The sight of her, surrounded by her loved ones, filled him with a sense of longing. He watched as she moved gracefully through the crowd, her laughter ringing out like music. In that moment, Nathaniel felt the weight of his solitude begin to lift, replaced by a yearning to be part of something larger than himself. Camila caught sight of him and her face lit up, a radiant smile spreading across her features. She wove through the throng of people, her energy palpable as she made her way to him. Nathaniel's heart raced, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of excitement overshadowing his fears. As she embraced him, he could feel the warmth radiating from her, and it stirred emotions within him that he had kept buried for far too long. As the evening unfolded, Nathaniel found himself enveloped in the love and support of Camila's family. The laughter, the shared stories, the clinking of glasses, all of it created a tapestry of connection that he had thought was beyond his reach. He watched as children ran around, their joyful shrieks filling the air, and felt an ache in his heart for the family life he had once shared with his late wife. Yet, amidst that ache was a burgeoning realization that perhaps he could allow himself to feel joy again. Nathaniel stood back, observing the scene with a mix of wonder and trepidation. He had always been an observer, a man who kept his distance, but now, with Camila's family surrounding him, he could feel the barriers he had erected begin to tremble. He was not just a spectator. He was part of something alive and vibrant, a community that thrived on connection. As the evening deepened, Nathaniel found himself sitting at the dining table, his plate filled with flavorful dishes that danced on his palate. Camila sat beside him, her presence a steady anchor amidst the gathering storm of emotions swirling within him. They shared glances and smiles, small moments that spoke volumes, igniting a warmth that spread through him like a gentle fire. In those moments, Nathaniel realized that he was at a crossroads. He could either retreat back into the safety of his solitude or allow himself to embrace the possibility of new beginnings. The laughter surrounding him, the joy emanating from Camila, all tugged at the strings of his heart, urging him to take a leap of faith. The choice was his, and as he looked into Camila's eyes, he felt the urge to step forward, to embrace the connection he had long denied himself. The air was thick with anticipation as Nathaniel Bennett stepped into the vibrant atmosphere of Camila's family holiday party. The sounds of laughter and music enveloped him, yet he felt a familiar sense of detachment, an observer in a world that felt both foreign and tantalizing. The decorations, glimmering lights, and a table overflowing with traditional foods created a festive backdrop that was almost overwhelming. He stood at the threshold for a moment, gathering himself amid the whirlwind of life that surged around him. Nathaniel's gaze caught Camila across the room. She was a radiant presence, her laughter ringing out like a melody that drew him in. Her family bustled around her, each member contributing to the joyous chaos, yet she stood out like a beacon of warmth in the crowd. With an unspoken invitation in her eyes, she beckoned him toward the center of the celebration. As he approached, he felt the warmth of smiles and the handshakes of relatives, each greeting infused with genuine affection. It was a world he had long since forgotten, one filled with connection and community. As the evening progressed, Nathaniel found himself swept into the festivities. Camila, ever the enthusiastic host, guided him through the various traditions her family held dear. They danced together, their bodies moving in rhythm to the lively music that filled the air. Nathaniel could feel the chemistry between them, an unspoken bond that seemed to grow stronger with every twirl and dip. In that moment, he let go of the weight of his past, allowing himself to be enveloped by the joy that surrounded him. Time seemed to stand still as he leaned in, the world fading away around them. The air was electric, charged with possibility. He could feel the warmth of Camila's breath, the softness of her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, Nathaniel allowed himself to imagine what it would be like to kiss her, to taste the sweetness of this burgeoning connection. Just as his lips were about to meet hers, a sudden commotion erupted from the other side of the room, shattering the moment like glass. A loud voice cut through the laughter, drawing Nathaniel's attention away from Camila. He turned to see a figure standing at the entrance. It was Camila's estranged brother, a man Nathaniel had only heard about in hushed conversations and worried glances. The tension in the room shifted palpably, a dark cloud overshadowing the festive atmosphere. Nathaniel watched as Camila's expression changed from joy to a mixture of surprise and concern, her eyes wide as she processed her brother's unexpected arrival. The man's presence was a stark contrast to the warmth of the gathering. He appeared disheveled and uncertain, a ghost of the brother Camila had once known. Whispers began to ripple through the family, eyes darting nervously as everyone processed the implications of his return. Nathaniel felt an instinctual tug within him, a desire to help as he witnessed the unease settle like a heavy blanket over the party. Camila's family was a tight-knit unit, their bonds forged in love and resilience. Yet the shadow of her brother's past loomed large, threatening to unravel the fabric they had so carefully woven. As the atmosphere became thick with unspoken words and unresolved tensions, Nathaniel stepped forward. He felt the weight of his role as the bank director, but more importantly, he felt the weight of his growing connection to Camila. It was an urge to protect, to mediate, and to help this family navigate the storm that had just arrived on their doorstep. He approached the scene, his heart racing with both trepidation and determination. Gently, he placed a hand on Camila's shoulder, offering silent support as she processed the situation. As he stepped into the fray, Nathaniel's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the brewing storm of emotions. He addressed Camila's brother, his voice steady and measured, trying to create a space where dialogue could happen rather than an eruption of tensions. He spoke with the authority of someone accustomed to managing crises, yet tempered with the empathy that came from experiencing loss and isolation himself. "Let's talk," Nathaniel said quietly, gesturing for the brother to step away from the crowd. The family watched, their faces a mix of hope and apprehension as they witnessed this unexpected turn of events. Camila's brother hesitated, the uncertainty of his position evident in his body language. But Nathaniel maintained his steady gaze, a silent promise of understanding and support. As they moved to a quieter corner of the room, Nathaniel could see the turmoil etched on the brother's face. The young man was filled with regret, the weight of his choices pressing down on him like a shroud. Nathaniel realized that the brother was not just a troublemaker. He was a man who had lost his way and was desperately seeking redemption. This was more than just a family crisis. It was a moment of reckoning for everyone involved. Nathaniel spoke softly, guiding the conversation toward understanding rather than blame. He asked about his brother's life, the struggles he had faced, and what had led him to this moment. With every word, Nathaniel sought to establish a bridge of connection, hoping to show the family that healing was possible, even in the wake of pain. He could sense Camila watching from a distance, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear, a reflection of the love she held for her brother despite the hurt he had caused. The atmosphere in the room began to shift as Nathaniel's steady presence created a safe space for vulnerability. The brother slowly opened up, sharing fragments of his story that revealed a young man lost in a sea of bad decisions and misguided choices. Nathaniel listened intently, validating his feelings while subtly steering the conversation toward accountability and the possibility of change. As they spoke, Nathaniel noticed the reactions of Camila's family. They were watching, caught between the desire to protect their own and the understanding that forgiveness was a powerful tool for healing. Nathaniel's ability to mediate the situation began to earn him their respect. He was not just an outsider, but someone who genuinely cared for their well-being. After what felt like an eternity, the brother took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing slightly as he recognized the support surrounding him. Nathaniel could see the shift in Camila's demeanor as she stepped closer, her heart opening to the possibility of reconciliation. The party, once enveloped in tension, slowly began to regain its rhythm, laughter emerging from pockets of conversation as others began to engage once again. As Nathaniel rejoined Camila, he felt a surge of warmth between them, a bond strengthened by the shared experience of navigating the complexities of family and forgiveness. She looked at him with gratitude, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and in that moment, he knew he had done more than just mediate a conflict. He had stepped into the heart of her world, embracing both its chaos and its beauty. The party continued to unfold around them, but for Nathaniel and Camila, time felt suspended. They shared glances filled with unspoken understanding, their connection deepening amidst the chaos. Nathaniel realized that he had crossed a threshold, one that led him closer to Camila and further away from the shadows of his past. In this vibrant family, he saw the possibility of a new beginning, a chance to embrace the warmth of human connection without fear. As the night wore on, they found themselves side by side in the kitchen, preparing a dish together, their laughter mingling with the sounds of celebration echoing through the house. Nathaniel felt a lightness in his heart, a sense of belonging that he had not known in years. In the midst of a lively family gathering, he had found a place where he could begin to heal and perhaps, just perhaps, open himself up to love again. As the holiday season continued in Chicago, a quiet transformation was taking place in Nathaniel Bennett's life. The days blurred together in a comforting rhythm, marked by the vibrant laughter that echoed from Camila's family home, where he spent more and more of his time. Each visit chipped away at the icy reserves he had built around his heart since the death of his wife. The glow of Christmas lights illuminated the streets outside, yet it was the warmth of Camila's spirit that truly lit up his world. In the cozy confines of the Rodriguez family kitchen, Nathaniel found solace in the chaos. The fragrant blend of spices and simmering tamales filled the air, mingling seamlessly with the sound of happy chatter. Camila moved swiftly among her family, her laughter ringing like music, effortlessly drawing Nathaniel into the fold. The first time he had stepped into her home, he had felt like an outsider peering in on a world that was foreign to him. Now, however, he was beginning to understand the beauty of this exuberant life. Despite this newfound connection, a shadow lingered over Nathaniel's heart. He often found himself grappling with guilt, a persistent whisper reminding him of the love he had lost. Memories of his late wife still clung to him like the scent of her favorite perfume, elusive yet comforting. He would catch himself staring out of the window at the street below, lost in thought, as the snowflakes danced in the evening light. The guilt was a heavy mantle he wore, weighing down his spirit. Each day spent with Camila was a reminder of the joy he could feel again, yet he hesitated, unsure if he had the right to embrace it fully. On one particularly festive afternoon, Nathaniel and Camila sat on the balcony of her family home. The air crisp with the promise of winter. The sunset cast a warm glow over the city, and the horizon was painted in hues of orange and pink. They were surrounded by the joyous sounds of their loved ones inside, but in that moment, it was just the two of them, two souls reaching for each other across the expanse of their own fears and hopes. Camila spoke about her dreams, her voice imbued with passion. She shared her aspirations of becoming a community organizer, her desire to uplift those around her, particularly her brother, who had recently fallen into troubling patterns. Nathaniel listened intently, captivated by her vision and the vulnerability she revealed. He admired her strength, the way she carried the weight of her family's struggles with grace and resilience. Yet, in the depths of her eyes, he saw a flicker of concern, an unspoken fear that perhaps her efforts might not be enough. As she spoke, Nathaniel felt a stirring within him. There was something about her honesty that tugged at the strings of his heart, igniting an urge to reach out and comfort her. Yet, he remained still, caught in the web of his own insecurities. His heart ached with a longing to be the man she deserved, to support her in the way she so freely offered her warmth to him. But how could he, when he still wrestled with the ghosts of his past? Days passed, and the holiday spirit wrapped around Chicago like a soft blanket. Yet, the joy that enveloped Camila's family also highlighted Nathaniel's internal struggle. He found himself drawn into their celebrations, participating in traditions that he had long since abandoned. He would watch in awe as Camila and her family prepared for their New Year's Eve celebration, their laughter spilling into the streets, creating an infectious sense of joy that even he could not resist. One evening, as Nathaniel helped hang twinkling lights around the family's living room, he caught Camila's gaze. There was a sparkle in her eyes, a silent invitation that made his heart race. It was in these fleeting moments that he felt the walls around his heart begin to crack. In the warmth of her presence, Nathaniel found himself smiling more, sharing stories, and even laughing, a sound that felt foreign and yet so right. However, the more time he spent with her, the more pronounced his internal conflict became. The guilt he bore did not dissipate. Instead, it morphed into a complex knot of emotions. He would often catch himself hesitating before reaching out to touch her hand, afraid that any sign of affection might somehow diminish the love he had for his late wife. Nathaniel was torn between wanting to embrace this new life with Camila and the unwavering loyalty he felt toward his past. On a particularly cold night, the family gathered for a movie marathon, a tradition that took place every year. The living room was filled with blankets, popcorn, and laughter as they settled in for the first film. Nathaniel found himself nestled between Camila and her sister, the warmth radiating from their bodies a stark contrast to the chill that lingered outside. As the movie played, he felt Camila lean against him, her head resting gently on his shoulder. The simple gesture sent a ripple of warmth through him, igniting both longing and fear. In that moment, Nathaniel could have easily closed the distance between them, could have let the emotions he had buried deep within him resurface. But he held back, reminding himself of the fragility of his heart. What if he allowed himself to cherish this moment, only to find it slipping away like sand through his fingers? The thought was unbearable, and so he remained still, silently battling the storm within. Tragedy struck when Nathaniel's late wife's sister unexpectedly arrived in Chicago. As the doors swung open, the festive atmosphere shifted, a chill creeping into the room. Her presence was a jarring reminder of the life Nathaniel had lost, a stark contrast to the joy that enveloped Camila's family. The tension hung thick in the air, each person acutely aware of the emotional weight that accompanied her arrival. Nathaniel's heart raced as he faced her, the familiar pang of grief intertwining with the joy he had begun to embrace. She confronted him about moving on, her words sharp and filled with the weight of her concern. Are you really ready to forget? To replace what was once so precious? The question hung in the air, a haunting echo that reverberated through Nathaniel's mind. Caught in the crossfire of conflicting emotions, Nathaniel felt the walls he had built for protection begin to crumble. He was trapped between two worlds, the past he could not escape and the future he desperately wanted to embrace. The warmth of Camila's family, the laughter, and the love that had begun to bloom felt like a betrayal to the memory of his wife. Yet, within him, a flicker of hope ignited. Perhaps it was possible to hold both memories and new beginnings in his heart. In the days that followed, Nathaniel found himself lost in reflection. The confrontation forced him to confront the depth of his feelings, not just for Camila, but for himself. He wandered the city streets, the winter air biting at his skin, yet he felt alive with possibility. Could he truly allow himself to love again? Could he find a way to honor his past while embracing the present? As he walked, he found solace in the sights and sounds of the city, where families gathered to celebrate the new year. The laughter of children, the aroma of street food, and the twinkling lights created a tapestry of life that enveloped him. For the first time in a long while, Nathaniel felt the stirrings of hope. The decision loomed before him, a choice to embrace the warmth of Camila's love or remain ensnared by the shadows of his past. He returned to Camila's family home that evening, the weight of his thoughts heavy upon him. As he stepped inside, the familiar sounds of celebration greeted him, but this time, they resonated differently. With each laugh and cheer, he felt a tug at his heart, the realization that perhaps it was time to step into the light. The vibrant atmosphere of Camila's family home buzzed with excitement as the New Year's Eve celebration unfolded. Laughter echoed through the halls, mixing seamlessly with the rich aromas wafting from the kitchen, where relatives prepared an array of traditional dishes. Nathaniel Bennett stood at the threshold, momentarily hesitant as he surveyed the scene. The room was alive with color and movement, a stark contrast to the solemn solitude he had grown accustomed to. Yet, beneath the surface of his apprehension, a burgeoning warmth ignited within him, fueled by the memories of the past few weeks. The laughter, the companionship, and, most notably, Camila. As he stepped in, the familiar sounds of chatter and clinking glasses enveloped him. The decorations sparkled under the soft glow of string lights, casting a warm halo over the jubilant gathering. Nathaniel felt a pang of nostalgia, reminiscent of the holiday celebrations he once shared with his late wife. However, the bittersweet memories were swiftly overshadowed by a strong resolve to embrace the present. Tonight was different. Tonight he intended to confront the feelings he had harbored for Camila, feelings that had blossomed like the vibrant poinsettias adorning the living room. Navigating through the crowd, he caught glimpses of Camila, her laughter ringing like music, effortlessly drawing people into her orbit. She had a way of lighting up the room, her presence like a gentle breeze that stirred life into the stillness. Nathaniel's heart raced as he approached her, determination coursing through him. The plan formed in his mind was simple yet profound. He would confess his love to her tonight. It was time to shed the layers of grief that had encased him for far too long. But as he neared her, the door swung open with a sudden burst of energy. Camila's brother, Miguel, entered, his face reflecting a mixture of trepidation and hope. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward him. Nathaniel, caught off guard, stepped back, momentarily overshadowed by the unexpected arrival. Miguel's presence seemed to shift the dynamic in the room, and Nathaniel watched as the tension in the air thickened, the festive spirit wavering momentarily. Miguel had been the family's concern, a source of worry and heartache. His estrangement had cast a shadow over their gatherings, and Nathaniel had witnessed the strain it placed on Camila and her parents. Yet here he stood, trying to reclaim his place among them. As he took a deep breath, the vulnerability etched across his features struck Nathaniel profoundly. This was a pivotal moment for the Rodriguez family, a chance for healing and forgiveness. Camila rushed toward her brother, her arms outstretched, and the embrace that followed seemed to melt away the years of hurt and resentment. Nathaniel felt a swell of emotion as he observed the reunion. The love that enveloped them was palpable, a testament to the resilience of family ties. It reminded him of his own life, of the love he had shared, and the connections that had once defined him. Perhaps this was what he had been missing, an understanding that love could evolve, that it could transform even the deepest scars into something beautiful. As conversations resumed, Nathaniel stood slightly apart, allowing the family to revel in their reunion. He felt a shift within himself. The urgency to profess his feelings to Camila faded, replaced by a profound respect for the unfolding familial bond. He understood now that love was not confined to romantic notions but existed in myriad forms, woven into the fabric of shared experiences and unconditional support. Yet, as the night progressed, Nathaniel could not shake the desire to connect with Camila on a deeper level. He had seen her strength and vulnerability in equal measure, and he wanted to be a part of her world, to share in her joys and sorrows. The clock ticked nearer to midnight, and with each passing moment, he felt the weight of his unspoken feelings pressing against him. The cacophony of laughter and celebration surrounded him, yet he was focused solely on Camila, who, even amidst the chaos, was a beacon of light. Finally, the time came. As the countdown to the new year began, Nathaniel made his way toward Camila, who was surrounded by her family, their faces alight with anticipation. He could see the sparkle in her eyes, the way she radiated happiness, and it filled him with a sense of purpose. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the surge of emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. With the countdown echoing in the background, Nathaniel reached for Camila's hand, gently pulling her aside from the crowd. Her surprise blended with curiosity, and in that moment, he could see the questions swirling in her gaze. He searched for the right words, the ones that would encapsulate the complexity of his feelings, the journey he had traversed from solitude to connection. As the countdown reached its climax, a wave of exhilaration swept over the room. 3, 2, 1. The collective cheers erupted around them, confetti raining down like a cascade of hope. Nathaniel's heart raced as he looked into Camila's eyes, the world around them fading into a soft blur. He took another deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. "Camila," he began, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "I've been carrying feelings for you that I can no longer ignore." The words flowed from him, sincere and earnest. He spoke of the joy she had brought into his life, how her laughter had pierced through his solitude, and how, in her warmth, he had begun to rediscover himself. Nathaniel acknowledged his past, the love he had shared with his late wife, but he emphasized that moving on didn't mean forgetting. It meant embracing the possibility of love anew, allowing his heart to heal and grow. Camila's expression shifted, a mixture of surprise and joy illuminating her features. Her eyes sparkled with unshed tears, and Nathaniel felt a rush of hope as he continued. He spoke of the beauty he saw in her family, the way they embraced one another through trials and triumphs, and how it inspired him to seek a place among them. As he finished, the noise of the celebration faded into the background, and for a moment, it was just the two of them, suspended in time. Nathaniel held his breath, waiting for her response, the gravity of the moment hanging delicately in the air. Camila stepped closer, her eyes searching his, and he saw a reflection of his own hopes and fears mirrored in her gaze. "I feel the same, Nathaniel," she finally whispered, her voice a melody amidst the chaos. The words washed over him like a balm, soothing the lingering doubts that had clung to him. Her smile widened, pure and radiant, and in that instant, he knew they had crossed a threshold together. The celebration erupted once more, the family enveloping them in joyous laughter and cheers as they toasted to the new year. Nathaniel felt a rush of warmth as he embraced Camila, her laughter mingling with the jubilant atmosphere. The past no longer felt like a burden but a part of him that had shaped who he was, a foundation upon which he could build a future filled with love and joy. As the clock struck midnight, Nathaniel realized that this was not just a new year. It was a new beginning. Together, they would navigate the complexities of life, the intertwining of family and love, and the journey of embracing the future while honoring the past. In each other, they had found a home, a sanctuary where laughter and love could flourish, and for the first time in a long while, Nathaniel felt truly alive.